What is up, Need for Speed Racers? It is I, your wheel man, Alex Cornnut. I'm here today with the top 5 A-plus class meta cars. We've got a lot of different disciplines, drift and grip, different styles. I got the Golf in front of us, all the way packed into the RSR, and a couple other cars in the class as well. You might have saw them in the thumbnail. This is the list. If you want to drive one of or all of the fastest cars that currently hold all of the Cornnut crew records and some of the world records, this is the place to get them. Let me dig into it. These are longer videos, but I want to make sure I pack in all the info for you guys so that way you've got it. We start with our Volkswagen Golf GTI. It's the Rabbit, it's the old one, and it is amazing. This build is not like some of the others out there. There's a couple of V8 builds that have a ton of horsepower, but they just spin the tires. You don't actually hook up, grip, and rip. This one, you can put the power down, and it is the one that holds the records, and it's what the boys use, so I definitely need to bring it to you. The engine that you run in this build is the last engine over. It is the 366 brake horsepower 2.0 liter inline 4. Last engine, Sport Bronze. Make sure that's the one you equip, because there's other 2.0 i4s. There's actually 2 of them there. That's 355. That's not the one you want. You want the 366. So make sure you grab that one, you guys. Last one. Now for the parts, Elite Platinum for your first 5. So it's Elite Platinum Induction, Elite Platinum ECU, Elite Platinum Fuel System, and Elite Platinum Exhaust. You're going to pair that up with a forced induction that is the Elite Platinum Centrifugal Supercharger. We run the Sentry in this build, that way you can get the most out of the top end, and it pulls a little bit of torque out of the bottom end, which is better because this car spins, and you don't want to be spinning the tires. You want them to be meeting the road and hooking up, so that way you can accelerate at the best potential. The Sentry does help with that. You do get to run a Silver Pro bottle of nitrous in this build, and that's going to help you with that acceleration. When you launch, throw it in 4th gear, use your nitrous to accelerate to top speed. That's how this build works. It does take some practice, but it is cracked on some tracks like the Long Climb or Buena Vista, Track Day Special. Anything that's got a good off-road section where you can kind of cut the track, this is your car. Elite Platinum off-road suspension, iron basic brakes, and super gold off-road tires. There's no way to put the Elite Platinum off-road tires here and still keep all the horsepower, and the golds hook up enough that it wasn't a fair trade-off. We definitely wanted to go with it in this configuration. It's one of the few builds I'll bring you that does have gold tires. Basic clutch. Now you're going to run the Sport Bronze 4-speed transmission. The 4-speed, it grips and rips. It's really all you need. You can take the bottle out, put in the 5-speed, and then adjust the grip just a little bit, and you can put this configuration in there, but for that record-setting run, which is meta in this case, you only need the 4-speed. So there's a couple different ways to do this car's configuration, you guys, but I am bringing you the one that is holding that record right now, so that way you're sitting on the best build configuration that we have. Now, for the differential, I always run the Elite Plat when I'm configuring stuff, but in this car you actually can buy just the Pro Silver diff, because that will get you 90% of the grip, because that's the only place we run it. So if you want to save a little bit of money, put in the Pro Silver, that'll be fine. Auxiliary is always nitrous drift, nitrous grip. That way you're getting your micro drifts, getting the most out of your NOS, and just building up your resources to go as fast as possible. The handling, slide the slider all the way to the left and back it off 2. That is 90% grip. That is where this car lives for this configuration. Steering sensitivity, I run 2 clicks high. That's just where I go, you guys. Downforce, last 3 clicks is where you can put this. Seikei runs it +5. He's one of the guys who holds the records. He says run it all the way up. Hex does the same. But you can also back it off a couple and do there as well. So that's going to be personal preference, but I would say probably just go all the way high and live with it there. That's where the other guys are running it, and it works really well, obviously. Traction control is off, and then drift entry, that is brake tap. That is going to give you the Volkswagen Golf GTI 1976. 165 for the top speed. It'll do about 167 with some redline tech. 658 for your horsepower, and your torque is 568. This is a very balanced build. You can run the V8. You can get 1,000 horsepower out of this, sometimes more, in A+, which is nuts, but you can't put any of that power to the road. It doesn't hook up, it doesn't grip. Once it's up and moving, you can go pretty fast with it, so you can close the gap on some people, but then you're going to get into the corners and it's not going to turn and hook up like you would necessarily want. So that's why this configuration holds the records, because it's actually better in the turns, it's better with your Trons. But if you want to go with the V8, I'm not going to poo-poo that because I ran it for a while. I don't mind it, it's not that bad. But this is the meta, this is what I've got. There is no drift build for this, this is just off-road craziness, and it takes some practice, so don't just build this and expect to be good. It does take a driver mod and some experience in the car to make it go, but it is quite fun to drive. Let me show you what I've got next. The Porsche RSR is on all of our lists so far, and it is a very good car, but this is the last time you're going to see it on the top 5 videos. It peaks at A+, and then falls off as we go higher. But this is a build we've been using for a very, very long time. It currently does not hold any records in time attack mode, meaning just setting the fastest time possible. But in a racing configuration, this car is cracked. It is very, very good. And so I definitely want to touch on it for you guys because it is truly a banger once you get used to driving it. The engine that we use in all the RSR builds is the 2.2 liter inline 4, 121 brake horsepower when we start. That is the 4th engine over, so you count 1, 2, 3, and 4. For the parts, in this configuration you are running Super Gold induction. You're running Silver Pro ECU, Super Gold fuel system, and Silver Pro exhaust. You're going to make that up to the Elite Platinum Roots Supercharger. It is the way to go. We like it a lot. There's no way to get full grip with the screw supercharger, so we run the Roots. Sport Bronze, bottle of nitrous, Elite Platinum road suspension, Super Gold brakes, and Elite Platinum grip tires. This thing grips and rips. It is awesome. It's one of the best handling cars in the game. Basic iron clutch. This is going to be the downfall for some people. This car used to be far and away one of the best cars in the class, but when we lost pre-shift, now you got to roll through the gears, so it's a little slower on that launch, but once you're up to speed, this thing is truly cracked. You are going to run the Super Gold 7-speed transmission. We got lots of gears, more better, right? And then you're going to mate all of that to the Elite Platinum differential. You definitely need the diff in here because we're only going 80% grip and it helps us get all the way there. Auxiliary, same deal. Nitrous grip, nitrous drift, those don't change, guys. Handling, slide that slider as far Beyonce as we possibly can to the left, 80% grip. Steering sensitivity, you can kind of do anything you want with it. I think a little higher is better for me, but a lot of players, you're going to want to have that in the middle or you're going to want to back it off some, to be honest. Like, guys, I would play there first, and then if you find the car's not turning as quickly or as sharp as you would like, maybe bump it up a little. Excuse me. Downforce all the way high, that's where we run this one. You can do a couple of clicks, basically from there all the way to the right, but with the way this car handles, all the way high is that sweet spot for me. You might play with it a little, but most of our records were set there. Traction control is off, and drift entry is set to brake tap. That is going to give you the 911 Carrera RSR. This car is a legend. It's been cracked in a bunch of games. This is where it's at, you guys. 167 for your top speed. It'll do about 172-ish with some redline tech, but that's about all it does. 494 for your horsepower, but 723 for your torque. This thing gets out of the corners like a beast. That's why it's on this list. It is a very good handling car. It is very light. And so the power to weight ratio is there, but the power to torque ratio is even better. So if you don't have this one in the list, definitely want to run this one in B, A, and A+ class because it is a very, very good car. Let's move on to some drift. SlideQT brought me this one straight out of his garage. This is the A+ M3 Legends Edition. Guys, if you don't have the car, I'm sorry. I don't pick what is meta. I bring you what is the best, and if you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. I would not say that buying the EA Pro membership to get this car is worth it. I would say no. I would never encourage anyone to give EA any additional money than what they've already got. But if you do have this car and you're a drifter, you need this build. It is super good at A+. Is it holding any records right now? Full disclosure, it is not. It's kind of like the RSR. It is a super close second. It is very, very competitive, and it might be a better feel for someone than some of the other cars in the list, so that is why I bring it to you. The engine that we run in this build is the 4.0 liter V8. That is the Sport Bronze 474 brake horsepower engine. When we start, it is the second engine over. For the parts, you're running Super Gold induction, Silver Pro ECU, Silver Pro fuel system, and Sport Bronze exhaust. You're going to pair all of that with a Super Gold screw supercharger. We run the screw to get the most torque out of it at the low end, so that way this car can drift and rip. That's what Slide does. It's full driftium. He says it's very, very good, and I've seen him race it. It is very fast. Sport Bronze, bottle of nitrous, Elite Platinum road suspension, Silver Pro brakes, and you're going to run Elite Platinum road tires, not the drifts, not the grips, but the roads. So make sure you get that tire choice correct if you're trying to set the car up the same way that we have it before you. Sport Bronze clutch, and then you are going to run the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. Elite Platinum diff, you want that diff in there so that way you can slide the slider as far to the drift side as possible. It's only got 40% drift. Most of the other drift cars we run 60, 70, 80% on the high end of things. But for this car, 40 is enough. He says that with that configuration, SlideQT is killing it in this car, so that's why I bring it to you this way. Auxiliary nitrous grip and nitrous drift, as we always do. Handling, slide the slider all the way to the right 40%. That's the sweet spot. That's the far spot. That's as much as you can get out of this build, and that's what we drift on. Steering sensitivity, I run 2 clicks high, Slide runs it in the low area. You guys do whatever's comfortable for you. So toy with that a little bit, but I would say probably running on the low slide will help you control those drifts a little better. Downforce, run 1 over. You can run 1 click plus all the way to the right. So that whole section is up for grabs. 1 click high allows you to have as low a downforce as possible to get the most top speed out of it, but still have it in the class. So I would say 1 click to the right of center is the spot you want to start with. Traction control is off, and drift entry is gas tap if you're running drift, or gas and brake tap depending on who you are and how you run. That's the BMW M3 GTR Legends Edition. 175 top speed, 549 for the horsepower, and 413 for the torque. Do not be confused or misled. This car being the Legends Edition, it has its own separate category in the game files than the other M3. They are very different cars. Their downforce modifiers, how they interact with the environment, how they accelerate, just everything that this car is totally separate from the other ones. So don't think you can grab the other M3 and build it this way and get the same performance. You cannot. It will not work. There's only 2 cars in the game that are like that right now, which is the ASAP Rocky 190E and this BMW. But for those of you that watch the video, I will say right now that Rachel's 350Z and Eddie's R34 that are coming out in the Volume 4 update are both Legends cars, and they are going to have very special characteristics, so we're going to have some builds on those to come. So get excited for that. Let me move you on to the next car in our lineup. The 180SX is the Drifter's Paradise. This thing is crazy in the game. It is very fast, it handles very good. SlideQT wanted me to specifically point out this car has not been nerfed. There have been no changes. It handles the exact same way that it always has. So if you've watched any other videos or been told that from other people, that is absolutely incorrect. And I can validate that with looking at the game files and the updates. We always save what the current version of Need for Speed is before the new update comes out, so we can compare notes to see what really was changed. And there were no changes to this car in any capacity. So this is the same it's always been. SlideQT really wanted me to asterisk that, and then Nil validated it. That's my man. All right, the engine that you run in this build is the last engine over. It is the 2.0 liter inline 4, 366 brake horsepower when we start. Last engine. Really need to be clear on that because there's multiple engines for this car that are 2.0s. So make sure it's go all the way to the right, you guys. For the parts, you're running Super Gold induction. You're running Silver Pro ECU. You're running Sport Bronze fuel system and Sport Bronze exhaust, paired up to an Elite Platinum screw supercharger. Sport Bronze nitrous, Elite Platinum road suspension, Silver Pro brakes, and Elite Platinum regular tires. Not the grips, not the drifts, not the roads. regular tires. I had to double check it twice with them just to make sure I didn't have it wrong. Basic iron clutch. And then you're gonna run the Sport Bronze 5-speed transmission. Guys, note here on this transmission, 4th gear is kind of not bugged, but it doesn't perform like it really should. The gear ratios are really odd. So you'll bang through the gears 1st, 2nd, 3rd. You'll shift into 4th, only be in 4th gear for about half of the RPM range, maybe 2/3 of it, and then short shift, meaning shift early into 5th gear, and then run out your race in 5th gear. 4th gear doesn't accelerate as hard as 5th does once you're about 2/3 of the way through that. So it's better to get into 5th sooner so you can accelerate quicker. Elite Platinum differential, but in this case, you guys, if you want to run just the Sport Bronze, that's fine. We're only doing 60% drift on this configuration. Auxiliary, nitrous drift, nitrous grip, as always. For the handling, like I said, slide that slider to the right, 60% drift. That's the sweet spot. That's where he's currently running it, and that's where a lot of his records are coming out of right now. So after running this car for a long duration, SlideQT says he's got the most control over it right here and now. Steering sensitivity, he runs it all the way low on this car. So run that slider all the way to the left. Start there, you guys, if you're new to drifting. If you're experienced and you have a preference already, do whatever you think is best. You guys are the driver. Pick what's good for you. This is just a base setup, and I show you what the world record was set in, and then you guys work backwards from there. Do whatever you think you want. Downforce all the way low. Slide the slider all the way to the left as well. Gives you the boost for the top speed and makes the car really just very smooth on its drift entry and not too aggressive. As you bump that up, it's going to make it rotate a little harder, but it makes it a little harder to control for your drifts. Traction control off. Drift entry is gas tap for SlideQT. That is going to give you the Nissan 180SX A269, or excuse me, A+. 176 top speed. It'll do just a skosh over that. It'll do about 180 miles per hour, 180 SX. It's perfect. 470 for your horsepower, and your max torque is 501. With this car, you guys, keep in mind the gear ratios for short shifting out of 4th. It's going to be a big help for you. This car is very good. It's very meta. It holds a lot of the crew records. So if you're a drifter, this is the one. Let me show you the last car on the list, and I think most of you guys know what's coming. Is it any surprise that the Rosa, our Lord and Savior Testarossa, is on this list? No, not at all. This car is crazy. The configuration I have before you is the Century build. It is the absolute fastest car for top speed in the A+ class. This will do 215, 218, 220 with a little bit of boost. It's crazy. This car is legit faster than a lot of S cars. The Century version that I have before us is the slowest to accelerate. I'm going to put a card over here, over there. Click on that. That's going to be a build video that's got 4 configurations for A+. There's a twin turbo and a supercharger setup for it, which is the short track Rosa. It's got the best acceleration. Then there's the single turbo setup, which is like mid-track. Ones that have longer straightaways where you still need a bit of acceleration, but you really want a little more top end. That turbo version does like 195. It's crazy fast. And then there's this version, which is the slowest to accelerate, but has the longest legs. If you are very good at your driver mod, and you know how to control the car and keep your boost and use your yellow boost in the corners to accelerate out, this is the meta car. But for new players or people that are kind of in that mid-tier, this is not the one you probably want to start with. You're going to want to get used to all of your mechanics of driving just in general before you jump into this one. But if you're running speedless, where it's just highway rolling, this is the one you guys want to equip, because you will literally walk every other car in the class, no question. And guys, I know there's other cars that have theoretical higher top speeds. They don't hit it in a race. This will actually get to its top speed and maintain it through the duration of the race. And that's why it is the record holder. I don't care if you can get your other cars up to a top speed while you're driving down the highway in free roam. That's not a race. Now that we're all clear, let me show you what I got. The engine that we run in the Testarossa for all the builds is the 4.9 liter V8. That is the first engine. That is the Iron Basic 225 brake horsepower when we start. Now for the parts, you're going to run Silver Pro Induction, Sport Bronze ECU, super gold fuel system, and super gold exhaust. You're going to run, like I said, that elite platinum centrifugal Sentry supercharger. It is the way to go for the highest top speed. Sport bronze, bottle of nitrous, elite platinum road suspension, sport bronze brakes, and elite platinum grip tires. Grip it and rip it, and honestly on the highway just go really fast. Iron basic clutch, and then you're going to pair that up to, excuse me, I said iron basic, that's sport bronze clutch, but it's the stock clutch. You are going to run the sport bronze 4-speed transmission. You guys will see that if we put in the 5-speed, it adds a lot of points, but it doesn't really bring up the top speed. So just keep that in mind. The 4-speed will get you where you want to be, and that's the way we set up the car. Elite platinum diff is what I always put in these builds, but guys, you can run as little as the sport bronze. It's fine. With the other parts, you can get to 100% grip with just the sport bronze. So if you're saving some money, that's a good place to do it. Auxiliaries don't change, you guys. Nitrous drift, nitrous grip. But if you're running this car specifically on just the highway races, you might get rid of the drift and put in near miss. A lot of traffic you can near miss. Might help you out a little bit more with your nitrous. Just a thought. For the handling, slide the slider 100% full Beyonce to the left, to the left. We are gripping and ripping on this one, you guys. Steering sensitivity, that's me. I'm 2 clicks high. You do you. Downforce all the way low. Back it off 1. That is a 269. That gives the car the highest top speed that you can. With Redline Tech, this will do 215. Easy. With some boost, it goes faster than that. This car is nutty. I mean, anybody that doesn't know this car thinks that you are literally cheating because it is that fast in a straight line. Traction control is off, and drift entry is brake tap. Guys, I'll link the video down below, and I put a card on it earlier. That is the 4 builds for the Rosa. I'm not going to go through all of them because I have one video dedicated to that already. But I do want to point out that this car, in different configurations, is the car to drive. It is cracked. It's the Rosa. Now, honorable mentions that are not on the list that I think are very good. Builds are already on the channel. I like the Beetle. Beetle's really fun in A+ class. It's definitely top tier, but maybe not the meta. F40, really good. Little slower top speed, but handles like a dream. Great car. 718 Cayman, super good car. Very predictable. Lots of gears if you're a manual player. Very engaging to drive. It's just a very, very good setup car. So keep those in mind. Like I say, honorable mentions. They're good cars, but they're just not here on the list. But this will give you an insight to what is setting records in the game, sets all the crew records in the Cornnut crew, and these are the builds that all the boys are using when they set those records, so that way there's no question on what really is getting done. There's a lot of people that do top 10s, top 5s, top 3s, but if you don't have data to back it up, what do you really have? You've got an opinion. I've got an opinion that is backed by data, by not just myself, but by hundreds of people that are in my crew that all race really hard, and it really lets us hone into what is truly the best. So I come to you with a little bit more info and a little bit more data to back it. That's really, I'd say, the biggest difference. Outside of that, you guys, that's me, that's the setup, that's the list. Build these cars, put them in your garage, you need to have them. Century Rosa for straight line, Turbo Rosa for mid-range, and probably twin turbo or screw supercharger Rosa for that short track. All right. Guys, thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.